Okay, so we are talking about quadratic formula. So in class, we talked about how for quadratic formula, you would need to get everything onto one side equals 0, and then you will figure out your A, B, and C, and you can just type this into Desmos. So we talked about how you can type in 14 and then just start with a plus, and then square root, which is down here, or you can type SQRT, negative 14 parentheses squared, and then minus 4. And so I'm just writing it just like it is on my paper. And then you would need to put it all over 2a. If you do this, it's not all over 2a. So I actually need to highlight the whole thing, and then I can divide by 2a. And that tells me that my answer is 5.12, which is right here. And then I'm going to change the plus to a minus, and that gives me my other answer. Now, another thing you can do is type in your equation once you have everything. This is to check yourself. Once you have everything on one side equals 0, and then your x-intercepts will be those 2 points. I don't know why it's not clicking. Will be those 2 points. So you can see that the x values are those 2 points. Okay, now sometimes though, if you have a negative under the square root, then Desmos is not going to know what to do, and it will say, hey, that's undefined. So then you have to do the under the square root by hand. So that is what I am going to show you here from our notes on page on the 2.13, solving using quadratic formula. So here's the first one. I'm going to start by figuring out what are my A and B and C. So A is 1, B is negative 4, and C is negative 3. And then I do x equals the opposite of B, so positive 4, plus or minus the square root. I just need to move these up out of my way. All right. Square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So I will fill those in. So B squared, so that's negative 4 squared, 4AC all over 2A. So that, if I put that into Desmos and I get a nice number, then I'm good to go. So let's try this in Desmos. So I have 4. I'm just going to start with a plus. Square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 3. And then I'm going to highlight it all over, over 2 times 1. And I get 4.64. I'm going to round to 5. So x equals 4.65. Or, now that was for the plus. So for the minus one, so this, do this. The plus is where it gives me this one, and then the minus is going to be what gives me this one. So all I have to do is go into Desmos. I don't have to retype it. I can just change this plus to a minus, and I get negative 0.65. So the important thing is, remember, this is all over 2a. So negative 0.65 is my other answer. This is a quadratic, so remember, I should get 2 answers because there's 2 spots where it hits the y-axis. For x minus 3. So you can see the 2 spots are negative 0.646 or 0.65 and 4.646 or 4.65. So now let's look at number 4. So number 4, I'm first going to get everything on one side equals 0. So I'm going to add 19 to both sides. So x squared plus 2x plus 19 equals 0. And then I'm going to identify a and b and c. So a is the number in front of the x squared, so that's 1. B is the number in front of the x, and c is the constant. Everything's positive. And now I'm going to say, okay, so x equals opposite of b, so negative 2, plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And then I'll fill those in. So b squared, so that's 2, 4ac all over 2a. So that was the opposite of b, by the way. That's where that came from. All right, so now if I type this in to Desmos, I get negative 2. I'll start with a plus. 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times 19. And it says undefined. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm going to get a negative number. So I need to figure out, like, what is this part so that I can figure out my I. Okay, so even if I were to highlight all of it and put it over to A, I'm still undefined. So now I got to figure out the part under the square root. I'm going to figure that out. And you can certainly use Desmos to help you. I know 2 squared is 4, and then 4 times 19. Okay, if I'm not sure what 4 times 19 is, I can sure come in here and say, what's 4 times 19? Okay, 76. So that part is 4 minus 76. This part stays the same. And 4 minus 76 is negative 72. And then over 2. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take out the I. And so remember, when you have a square root of a negative, that just becomes an I outside. So negative 2 plus or minus I square root of 72 all over 2. That works for my 2 answers. Negative 2 plus this imaginary number, negative 2 minus this imaginary number, all over 2.